So this is evaluation question 7, which is the progress I've made from the preliminary task to the final piece, which is insomnia. One of the first real progresses we think we've made is with the use of a tripod, which is very important because in our preliminary task we just used an iPhone, we just held it with our hands and we just filmed it like that. But quite a few of the shots were shaky and it was very hard to actually get some that weren't as shaky. So yeah, when we used the tripod and the actual filming of insomnia, it made the shots a lot more stable, and it just looked more professional in general. So the tripod's really important. We also learned not to film at night, which is quite important because with the cameras we were given for some of the shots, they weren't as HD. So if we tried to film, the quality wouldn't have been as good, and it made it fuzzy, which was part of the problem in our insomnia in our rough cut, because we filmed a lot of it in the dark where Sam was sitting in a room and it was really fuzzy when he went to pick up his phone, and we didn't like that at all. And we had some problems with that also in the preliminary task where we were inside and we were filming, it was quite dark and we had the same sort of problem. So we realised that we needed to film most of it in the day and next to some source of light. So we also learned about focusing, which I've mentioned in one of my other evaluation questions. You've got the autofocus and manual focus, and you've also got depth of field, which we've used effectively. In our preliminary task, we didn't use focusing at all, we just filmed it and took the footage and then put it together, and that was it. But in the insomnia task, we did quite a few things in lessons to do with focusing and depth of field, which I've put on my blog, and I thought about when we were filming. So when we were filming some shots, we used a short depth of field to kind of see the emotion in the character's face and blur out the background because that wasn't important. And we used a long depth of field in situations where the character wasn't so important, but you want to see in the background what's there. And we also, about the focusing, we focused on the actor's face quite a lot because we wanted to see the emotion that was going through his mind when he was thinking about the antagonist and the dreams that he was having and things like that. So yeah, that was very important. We also learnt about continuity in a piece, because in our preliminary task there were certain parts which jumped a bit because we hadn't got enough footage together, and it didn't really flow because the film didn't just focus. Every scene sort of cut and it jumped, and it just didn't. The audience couldn't really, sit and enjoy it because they're always on. They don't know what's going to happen. But when we filmed Insomnia, we did a lot in class about continuity and really having to feel the narrative to be able to understand it. And so in our final piece, we got more footage. We filmed. We left about 5 seconds before we filmed, so we made sure we got all of the start, and we filmed after 5 seconds to make sure we got all the finish, so we could cut it at different points, so you could have a sense of continuity in our narrative. We also think sound's very important, because in our preliminary task there's a lot of background noise. When we were filming the preliminary task, the buses were coming in into the playground, which wasn't good because it was background noise, and we had a lot of trouble with that. But what we found in Insomnia is, first of all, we used a lot of Foley. So we used it in with the lighter scene in the title sequence where he flickered it to make it more, to emphasise the sound more, so it was cleaner, and it just made the piece so much better than the original sound. We also used sound effectively in the title sequence with the church chiming in the background, which was good because it's kind of a sinister sound, which is really what we went for in the piece, which I've mentioned in a few questions now. And that really helped us to create the feel we wanted to in our piece. So sound's important for that, and also it's not just non-diegetic and diegetic sound, but it's the use of no sound at all sometimes. So in the second half of our opening sequence, we don't use any sound, no one speaks, because we think that in the sequence it helped build tension in our piece, which is what we wanted, and it helped to intrigue the audience, which is what we got in some of our feedback as well, which is in the evaluation question 5. Sound's really important for diegetic, meaning what he says, what the character says, non-diegetic, meaning the background noise and Foley, and sometimes no sound at all when you're looking to build and emphasise a piece. So yeah, I'll put a few still images from our preliminary task in our Insomnia task together so I can compare and show you in more detail if I haven't gone over stuff correctly in this video. But that's it. Thanks.